As a tribute to the Albert family, John Ritchie goes down to Mike Boschetti. In our own, we have Papa Shot Final Four here. And you lost to Mike Boschetti.
I did.
Congratulations.
I did, and I even blocked one of his shots.
I mean, that's not allowed.
No, it's not.
Since when is defense part of it?
Not that.
I blocked one of his shots. Yeah.
Boschetti, your thoughts on this?
I knew I was bad. I didn't think I was that bad.
Boschetti, you're the only guy with a goiter who's ever won one of the rounds.
I thought John was going to crucify me for sure, but
now Kenny and Ala, Mike has a goiter. I don't want you.
Mike Boschetti, what was the score?
What was it?
Look,
you don't
it's
even
still
remember.
Up. It's
if you
22
win,
to
you're
21.
supposed to remember.
Now, granted,
you don't have to win by 2.
If you will recall, Mike was still shooting for me at the beginning of my turn.
That was like half a second.
Here come
no, it wasn't half a second.
excuses.
And you blocked his shot.
I
did block his shot.
Who won, Shane?
That's true.
Boschetti beat him 22 to 21.
Andy worked that 88-hour Friday.
By the way, the real pathetic thing is I only had a 33. Again, our makeup lady, Chelsea, had a 74. So let's just.
Chelsea's got game.
Oh, that is by far my worst score of all time.
And when I
thought I was bad scoring in the mid-30s. That is by far the worst score I've ever seen on that game.
You crumbled under pressure?
Yeah.
And when I say
so basically,
Chelsea,
are we just waiting till the next commercial break?
When I say Chelsea,
I'm going to see what I get the next commercial break.
When I say Chelsea got a 74, and I say she's a lady, I'm not talking about like a guard at a woman's prison. Chelsea is a very pretty
Chelsea
thin girl, like a very ladylike, and she's 74.
That's not even her best score.
Yes.
She's been in the 90s, I think.
That's just showing off.
Well, our guests are the great Kenny Albert. Thank you so much for coming back. And Ala Abdelnaby. And obviously, we want to talk a little. First of all, Kenny, right from the Ranger game, I love it. The true Albert fashion. That's amazing. You're doing the Ranger game.
Overtime
against Phoenix.
4-3. Thought I would be late.
I love that. Listen to that voice. I love it. I love it. Again, it's so funny. Phoenix, it just doesn't shout hockey. How long have the Coyotes been in the league?
They moved from Winnipeg about 15 years ago.
Okay,
so they went from probably the coldest market in the
Winnipeg
NHL down to the warmest. And now, of course, Winnipeg has a team again.
Right.
I know you're very familiar, Artie, with the reincarnation of the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, the Winnipeg Jets it's the same. It's also the Jets again?
It is the Jets. Yep. We were there last week, and in Winnipeg, it's so cold that they built these underground tunnels and walkways. You can actually walk from the hotel to the arena 7 blocks.
No,
like Minneapolis.
You don't go outside.
Kinda, right, Kenny?
You don't go outside.
Like Minneapolis. Kinda,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I did stand up in Winnipeg. I did a Tuesday through a Sunday night shift at a club there. Probably in 1997 or 6. It was February. It was like 2 degrees. And God, I'll tell you, the waiters and waitresses got the best blow, though. I mean, I've never seen anything. I know you guys can't talk about this on air.
It was 2 degrees, but it felt like 1.
Well, it was snowing in the room, put it that way. There was a blizzard inside the hotel room. It was really like one of those days. Well, listen, you're in Winnipeg, it's February, let's do coke. But no, I never heard of that. Well, how long has that been around? You know, Toronto has a similar thing. And Minneapolis, I think, you have an underground thing.
Oh, I thought you were going to say good coke.
Actually, Minneapolis is... we'll get into it later. But no, how long has that been around for in Winnipeg?
The city or the team?
The underground thing.
It's been around as long as I've been going there, which is about 20 years.
Really? Okay.
Long time.
We got lost on the way to the arena and actually had to walk outside for a few blocks. That wasn't fun. One of the guys in our crew actually walked backwards to try and stay out of the wind and almost got knocked over.
Well, listen, it is, again, you know, I hate to say this, but, you know, you like to come up with exotic places where it's been cold. The coldest I've ever been is Chicago in February. I've only been to Chicago once in the winter, 50 times in the summer. But once in the winter, I played Zanies in February, probably about 10 or 11 years ago, and I could not believe the wind went through my bones. It was cracking my bones. It was chilling.
And in Winnipeg, there's an intersection, Portage and Maine. It is known as the
I've heard
windiest intersection in North America.
Awesome.
So stay away.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Let's go there.
It's, well, I asked the guy, is there any street corners I can get blown on? And he said, yeah. Listen, we're happy to have both of you here. When I think of Winnipeg, remember Jerry Gerard, the local sports?
I do, Channel 11.
Local sports guy in New York, real sarcastic. Do you remember Jerry Gerard?
I do.
Okay, when I hear Winnipeg, I think he was making fun of the fact that everybody makes the playoffs in hockey. So it was opening day of the NHL, and he said, NHL had its opening day today. That's the league where they play 80 games to eliminate Winnipeg. Now, do you follow the college hoops a lot?
I do. I do follow college hoops. I actually worked one college basketball game this year for Fox Sports 1.
I think I saw that game, too. Was it a Creighton game?
It was Xavier Providence.
Xavier Providence. Okay.
Do follow it. Busy with hockey this weekend, but have tuned in Thursday, Friday, whenever I had the opportunity.
When you get a game like that, at what point do you start memorizing everybody on Xavier, and how long does it take you to forget them when you're done with the game?
You know, it's funny. Sometimes you find yourself, whether it's college basketball, hockey, football, years later, you have this useless information in your head.
You do.
It stays. I'll see a team once in a while, and you revert back to a player that might have worn that number 12 years prior. It's this really strange phenomenon. I have a big head. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have trouble wearing hats. I once did a Yankee pregame show when they acquired Cecil Fielder in 1996, and we actually got the first hat that he tried on. It was too small for my head.
Wow.
So I have all this useless information up there. So once in a while, you forget it pretty quickly. But sometimes it just stays up there.
Listen,
and you pull out a name or a number.
Think of Boschetti. Boschetti has a huge head, bigger than yours, with no information.
I find that it's kind of like the way I went through college. You have to cram, learn an awful lot of information. The game comes sort of like the test, and then after the game's over, you don't need that information anymore. You're never going to use it unless you do a league or a conference where you're going to be seeing teams over and over again.
As a great player at Duke, would they make you take the test? Did you really?
I had to go to class, man.
Duke did that. I know. I can tell you're a smart guy, but.
Listen. I didn't like it at the time because it was the harder way to go.
Yeah.
Because there were other guys that I knew that were other schools that they didn't have to, let's say, focus like we did on classes.
Like UNLV.
Or there's a lot of them. We'll leave it at that. But for me now, I'm thankful that I had to go that way. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course. I mean, listen, Duke is like an Ivy League of the South, which of course means like Montclair State.
Exactly. Keene College.
Keene College. I grew up around the block from Keene College.
Glassboro.
Oh, Christ. But now, so Ken, did you fill out a bracket, or how's your bracket looking?
Not too good.
Mine's terrible. But I had Michigan State going to the final, and that's the only thing left.
But I must give a shout out for I have two daughters, and my younger daughter, Sydney, is 11. Last year, she entered a pool that I received via email from some work folks. She knows nothing about college basketball, finished 5th out of 800.
That's how it always happens. Yeah. I tell you, I saw some stat where as of a few days ago, there were still 41,000 people in ESPN's major thing with like 30 million people in it that had a perfect bracket. 41,000 and change. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Al, how about you? How's your prediction?
Horrible.
Yeah.
Mine went right from the first game, Ohio State Dayton. Off the bat, that
Dayton?
Thursday morning, I'm sitting there like, oh, that's it. There goes the bracket, because I didn't see that coming. I did a Dayton game about 3 weeks ago at St. Joe's, and they were down by 20 at halftime. Dayton was. They looked horrible.
Right.
So to be seeing them doing what they're doing now, up against Ohio State, beat them.
Surprise you.
Up against Syracuse, beats them back
they have
to
a
back.
Chance
And here's the thing:
they have a chance against Stanford.
You always have a chance. That's why you play the game. And Stanford,
the better team.
Stanford's
out of nowhere.
No, but Stanford's the better team because they're the bigger, stronger. They're going to defend a little bit better.
Okay,
but
good.
That doesn't mean that they can't lose.
Well,
either.
right. I mean, Dayton just
if Dayton hits shots and the other team gets into foul trouble, things can always go funny. Go ahead.
Did you guys see the headline in the Dayton newspaper the next day? I was actually on the Ohio State campus, believe it or not, when they lost to Dayton. We were there with the Rangers in Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
But the next day in the Dayton Daily News, the front page headline in big block letters, the University of Dayton.
I saw that.
Nice.
I saw that.
Those bastards.
And that's why Chad Mata doesn't play them early on in the season or teams like them, because big schools got nothing to gain from that scenario.
Yeah.
You can only lose.
We got a couple of guys here that are big Ohio guys. A lot of Ohio action going on. Yeah. If you had to root for one, do you guys care about Dayton at all?
Well, I hate Ohio State because I'm a turncoat. Josh loves Ohio State, but if we got to root for someone and neither of those teams are in at Dayton, of course. Like, we're from
Shane's an Ohio guy who rooted for Michigan.
So you wouldn't root for any of the Cincinnati schools like Xavier, Cincinnati?
If it was something that Michigan's not in.
Wait,
sure.
you're from Dayton?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
and
you're from Dayton?
Who blatantly roots for Michigan and has since high school.
Yeah, that's
Josh is from Dayton, too. So there's two of us here that are from Dayton, really familiar with UD, partied in the ghetto.
Josh, you're
a
from
million
Dayton?
times, all that.
Shane's looking for a fight.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
I've been to Dayton several times.
Dayton is, listen,
That's why you're here,
hardcore, man.
That's why you guys are here, right?
And that Dayton Daily News front page you're talking about, Kenny, is the funniest thing ever because Ohio State's whole thing about the Ohio State University, and it's so pompous.
Well, that is, you know, all the players when they introduce themselves. I always hated that because I'm not a rah-rah guy. I didn't go to college. The only schooling I've had after high school was driving school. But, you know, like, and it doesn't make sense. Artie Lange, the Taggart's driving school.
You know, at Ohio State,
me and Flip and go, the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
The NCAA fencing championships were taking place at Ohio State this past weekend. I'm doing pretty well in that bracket.
Well, I've said this before. I've said this before on the show where I come from. The fencing championships is the best people who buy stolen goods. The best fencers. You're from that area too, Montclair.
Nice.
Bloomfield Avenue.
No denial.
But Alan, so based on what's happened, what are you have any predictions? Like, what do you think? I mean,
well, I'm like you. I still got Michigan State.
Yeah.
I did have Tennessee beating Duke, and yes, I did. Yeah, I did. I had that in my bracket from when the games and the seeds were picked out because I didn't see them losing to Mercer though. I thought they'd get past Mercer and lose to Tennessee because one of Duke's weaknesses has always been on the inside all season long, and they've got two big guys that can play in there. Right. So I didn't think Duke had a chance, but I definitely didn't see the Mercer loss coming.
Are you allowed? God. Are you allowed, Ola, to pick against Duke?
Well, listen, I call it the way I see it. You know what I mean? Like, if it was up to me in a perfect world, Duke would win every game and every national championship, but that's not going to be the case. So my job is to be objective. You know, my heart is somewhere else, but my mouth and, you know, and my perspective has to be objective.
What does Coach K's life become like the weeks right after a loss? Does he take any time off? Does he go to the Bahamas or something?
What he does is he gets back in, and before he does go away, but before he goes away, he always sits down with each of us one-on-one and sets the plan for the summer and in the upcoming year, and then he'll go off to the beach and hang out for about 10 days or so. He does
10 days, and then he gets right back.
Oh yeah, well listen, we're talking about a West Point guy here. You know, sitting down for him is failure.
That's how you're great, I guess. That kind of work ethic, because I mean, you know, I would think maybe you'd take a little time off. But,
to him, that's a lot. 10 days, you know, that's pushing it.
It's like Bill Belichick when they lost this year in the playoffs. He said, "I'm going to Pebble Beach next week for a couple of days, play golf, right back to the office."
I don't understand. That's why I'll die broke.
But I think what it is when you love what you're doing, you'd rather be doing nothing else. So I think that's what they, you know.
But I love comedy, and I'd rather be doing nothing.
And you know how these coaches are, they feel that if they're not in the office, if they're not working,
you're giving away something.
Other coaches are.
Right. Yeah. Someone's catching up.
Yeah, they feel like they're getting outworked.
Absolutely. It's that true, like, F you, I got to be.
Well, I don't know a coach that isn't unbelievably competitive. I just don't know of one.
Well, the unsuccessful one.
Well, right, exactly. But I should have said a good coach.
Do you have coaching in you? Do you think you'd ever
I coached 4 years of high school basketball. I'll never do it again.
Do you think you could ever coach?
Heck no.
You know why?
No.
You seem a little too laid back.
And not just that. I cannot possibly depend and put my livelihood on the 18 to 22-year-olds.
That would drive you crazy.
You know what I mean? Because
try putting your mortgage on.
Well, that's.
I'm screaming at a 19-year-old.
But that's my point. And I think a lot of kids, there's a process when you go through school where you go from being a kid who just likes to play to being a kid who plays to win.
Right.
And the realization of, hey, this guy, our coach, this is how he feeds his family. You know, it's serious business.
That's a big
And
deal.
if you don't look at it like that, there's no place for you there. So I think that's the thing that I couldn't put myself in a situation of as a coach. I'm not counting on those 18-year-olds. No way.
Ken, you said you mentioned that you called a college hoops game for Fox. Could you put in order what you love calling, like 1 to 5, sort of like sports?
You know, I get asked this question a lot, and I've been very fortunate to work in all 4 of the major sports. And I always say it's like asking someone what kid you like the best if you have 3 or 4 kids.
What kid do you like the best?
So the answer is no. I will not rank the sports. No, I really love all of them. Loved hockey growing up.
Which is the first you did ever? Like, what was the first one that you got a chance to put the headset on?
First as a professional was hockey. Did minor league hockey down in Baltimore, moved on to Washington. Have been with MSG and the Rangers for 18 years. But also have been very fortunate with Fox, NFL for 20 years now, and baseball for about 15 years. So,
that's awesome.
really lucky, and whatever season it is, there are certain times that you feel like are the best times of the year.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to really pick one.
Did you grow up? Okay, I'm sorry.
The big time broadcasting has been football,
right,
the longest. Right. Which do you find that you have the most people coming up on the street, asking you questions, talking about games, that sort of thing?
Well, around the country, whether it's in an airport or a restaurant somewhere, it's definitely football, because those are national games or regional games that are seen in different pockets of the country. Mm-hmm. Most of the hockey I do is only heard or seen in New York, although I was over at the Olympics. In fact, I talked to you guys from Sochi over the phone.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
So I have done some national hockey recently on NBC, but most of the hockey is local. So nationally, it would have to be football.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk to Ken about Sochi and that experience and everything. And Al here for a while. Can you hang for a while?
Absolutely.
Right? Thanks. Yeah, he's always good to us. He hangs out. So we got a couple of good men here to talk some sports, and come back after this.
The Artie Lange Show, weeknights on Audience, only on DirecTV.